but it's very different from the Western conception of proof. Okay? In the Nyaya philosophy, uh, proof is the answer to a question. Okay, and only a living entity can ask a question.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is called. There is a big discussion in Nyaya philosophy on abhava. Abhava means absence.
Mm.
Okay,
Right.
so a question arises in a person because of abhava, which means there is some absence. Okay, something is missing.
Mm.
Okay, that thing that is missing becomes a question.
Exactly.
And this question always but because there is a person who's asking the question, there is something that exists. The person exists, right? But
Right.
in that person a doubt arises, a question arises, an absence arises. Okay,
Exactly.
and from that question the answer automatically arises. Okay,
Right.
so there are three stages basically. There is a question and there is an answer. Okay, and and previously the person who exists is a premise.
Exactly.
Okay, so in Western logic you will always have a premise and a conclusion, or some premises and a conclusion.
Mm.
Okay, it's like you might say in Greek syllogisms, all men are mortal is one premise, and Socrates is a man is the second premise. And as a result of that, Socrates is mortal is a conclusion. Okay, so
Exactly.
this is impersonal logic.
Right.
Whereas in the Vedanta Sutra, for example, which is called Nyaya Prasthan, or it's called a logical proof or a logical progression, there is a succession of questions and answers.
Mm.
Okay, so uh, you know, and from the answer arises a new premise, which then leads to a new question, which then leads to a new answer. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is how it proceeds: premise, question, answer, premise, question, answer. Okay,
This
so
is
it's
like,
a three-step logic, not a two-step logic in terms of premise and conclusion.
so how does one come to the premise? Basically, I think that is called Bhakti, the same thing, or
No, vyapti is fine. Vyapti is not discussed in Nyaya.
okay.
Okay, uh, uh, vyapti, or you can call it the conclusion.
Okay.
But the process is like, for example, why do you pick up a book? Why will you pick up a book like, let's say, Vedanta Sutra or any book? There
Mhm.
must be some questions in you.
Exactly.
For example, if you pick up a book like Bhagavad Gita, maybe there is some question. Oh, what is the meaning of life? What is soul? What is God? What should I do? What is yoga? Any number of questions, right?
Yeah.
If
Precisely.
there is no question, then you would never pick up a book,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So any activity like that has to always begin in a question, right? So Nyaya discusses how the question arises from an existence and then how answer arises from within the question. Now this is uh, this whole system of logic, which is called Nyaya philosophy, explains how the supreme absolute truth expands into the world. Okay,
Exactly.
let me illustrate this by an example that we were discussing last time. Okay, so let's say yellow is a color. Okay, and or a yellow is and so there are two concepts: color and yellow, right? So color has some absence. There is a presence and there is an absence. Presence is the color, but what is absence is red, blue, green, purple. These things are absent.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so color is there, but in that color, the absence arises, and there are many kinds of absences. And from that absence arises a new presence. That is the whole doctrine of Satkaryevad that we were discussing. That uh, you know, the question will arise from within the premise, and the answer will all arise from within the question. That means the answer is within the question, and the question is within the premise.
Mm.
Okay,
Right. Right.
this method of producing the answer from the question is employed in many coaching practices. For example, mentoring and coaching, there is a standard, practice where the coach or the mentor will never give you the answer.
Mm.
They will only, if you ask a question, they will ask a counter question.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Right.
right? So, for example, you might say, "Oh, what is the meaning of life?" Okay, so then you might say, "Well, what do you think the meaning of life is?" Then your answer would be, "Well, the meaning could be this or that." And then the counter question will be, "Do you really think it is this?" And give an counter example, what do you think the answer is? So you go on asking a question to a question. This is so that your question will automatically produce the answer.
Isn't it the same thing in dialectical approach in the Western tradition? I mean,
No, dialectical is different. Their dialectics means synthesis. I mean, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. This is the Hegelian notion of dialectics: thesis, antithesis, and synthesis.
so
Well,
when you sorry to interrupt. Yeah, when you
yeah,
question like suppose a teacher wants to train us, and he asks counter question, and we think about it, and we also come up with uh, another question, which is which I otherwise never thought of. So isn't that I'm giving an antithesis to my earlier thought?
yeah. So we have to understand what this system of Nyaya is about. It is about how God creates the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, first of all, we understand that, and then we come to what is our process of question and answer.
Okay.
Okay, so why does God create? Because everything is in God, but God still, a doubt arises, an absence arises in God. What is that absence? That absence is, who am I? What is my nature? Okay, and the world is an answer to that question. Everything is an answer to the question about who am I, which arises in God. Because there has to be a question. There has to be a doubt. There has to be a feeling of absence. Something is missing. Even if you have a relationship with somebody, right?
Yeah.
You have to feel some absence. Something is missing. Therefore, I should go and meet and talk to this person,
Mm.
right? If there is no absence, if you are feeling totally complete and satisfied, right, then you would not go and meet anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so everything is a byproduct of an absence, and how this absence arises itself is a big topic. Okay, but you can, by this three-step process, okay, you can cast this problem of logic into nothing but the nature of consciousness.
Mm.
Okay, that absence is what we call desire, which is the nature of ananda. Okay, and the answer is what we call the chit. And whatever was the premise that existed previously is the Sat.
Is the Sat.
Yeah. So a premise exists, which is I exist eternally. Then a doubt arises, a question arises, a desire arises, and then an answer arises. Who am I? Shadujjvala Vigrahasya.
Mm-hmm.
So the process of logic is identical to the process of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because what, see, in Western philosophy, what have they done? Oh, first of all, logic is independent.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
where does it exist? We don't know.
Mm.
Okay, is there something called logic? Well, it's, they are not able to answer even the basis of fundamental, things like why is there mutual exclusion? Why is there non-contradiction? Or what is logic itself? Where does it exist? What is the nature of? So this is not there in Nyaya. Nyaya means logic equals consciousness or whatever the process of consciousness, which means I exist, a desire, a question arises in me, and then from the question, the answer arises.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
So there are many, many types of questions. All these are many, many types of desires.
Mm-hmm.
Many, many, and then there are many, many answers to those questions. So this process of premise, question, answer, premise, question, answer. And when the answer arises, it becomes a new premise.
Yeah. So when you talk about some desire arises, so does that mean the absence of because when you talk about God, I mean it's he should or he should contain everything in him. So
Yes.
why he need for us hankering is something we really don't possess and we want something. For God, what is the need of really hankering for something?
Yes.
Kind
That
of
hankering is nothing, it's not hankering for something other than me. It is hankering to know who I am.
yeah,
Okay. So everything is, you can say God is introspecting, and the creation is the result of that introspection. So therefore, you have already said everything is inside God,
yeah,
right? So it's not that, just like you might sit sometimes and say, oh, let me remember what happened in that year. Okay. So the memory is in you, but that doesn't mean you are always aware of that memory.
yeah, exactly.
Recall the memory.
Mm.
Similarly, everything is in God, but God still has to remember. So if nothing is there, I mean, this is, of course, eternity means that you cannot trace out historically when that thing started, right?
Yeah.
But logically speaking, you can say there was a time when,
Mm.
one became many.
Eko Bahut Shyam or something like that.
Yes.
When
Eko
that
Bhuvnam Yo Vidyati Kaman. Was there a question? Okay. So everything is there in God, but there is a logical process by which creation occurs. Okay. Like we talked about last time, it's not ex nihilo, something came out of nothing. No, it came out of God. But how did it come out of God? That is a logical process. And that
Exactly.
logical process is an absence arises from that absence. Again, remember Satkaryabad always.
That is
The effect is always residing in the cause. Okay.
yeah,
So the potentiality for doubt or question or desire always existed in God. You cannot say desire was forced by somebody else.
yeah.
It is not externally forced. The potential exists, it manifests.
Mm.
And how it manifests is again, that is the nature of consciousness. When it focuses, a desire arises. It's a more deep subject,
Mm.
but basically a doubt arises, a question arises, a desire arises.
Right.
And that desire thing is this is why in the Vedanta Sutra, very early on, it's called Anandamaya Abhyasat,
Mm.
the practice of enjoyment. Abhyasa means can mean many things. One is the practice, or it can mean being accustomed to enjoyment, right?
Yeah.
So Anandamaya Abhyasat means that supreme absolute truth. So initially it will say, Thato Brahma Jigyasa, and they'll say Janamadasya Yataha, okay, or that from which everything has come. So the question arises, oh, why did it come? Anandamaya Abhyasat, because of happiness, okay.
Yeah.
That is another deeper point about the nature of desire. Desire in the material sense is always about, I'm missing something, I need to get it, okay. That is a material desire where I am seeking happiness
From something external.
from something external. But there is another type of desire in which I am expressing happiness,
Mm.
okay. The desire to express my happiness, right? For example, suppose you are bored right now. So you might say, oh, I'm bored, let me go and meet my friend and talk to that friend, and I'm unhappy, so by talking I'll become happy, okay. That is one reason to go. But suppose you got a promotion, or you found something very beautiful, and you are overjoyed,
Mhm.
okay.
Right.
You are overjoyed and you want to express that joy. I need somebody to tell it to,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
Whom should I tell it to? That is expression, that is abhivyakti. So the material or any world is described as God's abhivyakti. This is also a Vedanta sutra.
Mhm.
The creation is God's abhivyakti. Abhivyakti means expression. I am expressing my thoughts, I am expressing my feelings, I am expressing. But why am I expressing? It's not because I'm bored, I'm dissatisfied, I'm unhappy. No, it's because I am overflowing with joy, right?
Okay.
So if I'm overflowing with joy, then I go and let me tell my friend, let me tell, somebody,
Mm.
share my joy.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is also a question or a desire, but it is not this type of desire that we were referring to, like the examples we gave earlier.
Mhm.
That is also a desire. We talk to somebody and things like that. Now comes the question of the guru disciple relationship. The disciple asks a question and the guru gives an answer, okay. Why that is the case is because the disciple may have the potential for knowledge, but everything is so covered up, right? That if the guru simply says, goes on asking question, the process is very long, okay.
Yeah.
So they go into this question answer mode in which the questioner and the answerer are different personalities. The process is still the same logical consciousness process, but there's a separation between the person who's asking the question and the person who's giving the answer, which leads to a new premise, which then leads to a new question.
Yeah.
So the process is question answer premise, question answer premise. The process is the same. So
Mhm.
you can call it dialectics,
Yeah.
because there is a dialogue going on between guru and disciple, or between two individuals. It's like you are asking me questions, I'm giving you some answer. I could also go into a much lengthier process in which I go on asking you questions, like we discussed about coaching, but that will become very boring and frustrating.
Yeah, I made a dancer also.
Yeah, it may, we may run out of patience,
Yeah.
right? But that type of method, which is in which I ask you counter questions, is employed when you are unwilling to accept the answer that I will.
Mm.
There are many people, okay, if you tell them, things are like this, Oh, how do you know? What is this? What is? So then we do not give the answer. We say, what do you think it is? And whatever answer they give, we ask them counter questions on that so that they get confused in their own mayajal, in their own contradictions,
Yeah.
in their own falsities. Okay. So that process is also there. This is that whole process is the basis of, if you read the book Cosmic Theogony, there's a discussion I've done there about that process in which the guru will not give you an answer. They will give you a paradox. They'll give you a counter question. It's like Zen Buddhism. They'll give you koans. They give you paradoxes. Now figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that so? Because the person is arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
If you give them an answer, they will say, oh, what is this? Who cares? I mean, maybe it is just his opinion. Okay. So they will never give you a straight answer. They'll give you a counter question, right?
Yeah. To say.
Similarly, in the Western system of education, they will give you some theory and things like that. But after that, they'll say, here are 25 problems at the end of the chapter. Go and solve them. Okay. Why? Because, and then they will give you marks and give you numbers, assessment.
Yeah.
Okay. That is never the case in the Vedic system. There is no concept of the guru will give you some answer and then he'll give you problems to solve and then they'll give you exam and then he'll give you marks. That is not the guru disciple system of education. Okay. Why? Because the system assumes that you are humble. Tadvidhi pranipatene pariprashnene sevaya udekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvatarshina. So
Mm-hmm.
that to know, in order to know that, you go and surrender to a guru and submissively ask them questions and they will teach you.
Yeah. Right.
But the modern problem is that, first of all, nobody surrenders. They don't even have inquisitiveness, right? If there is some inquisitiveness, they will not surrender. Oh, why should I surrender? Because there are so many false gurus also. That is also one problem. But people in general will never surrender their independence, their idea. They will always have this doubt, maybe he's just making things up. I get that criticism a lot. Oh, so even if you say this is how it is, they'll say, quote me the Shastra, quote me the verse. Okay, we can quote you, that's not the issue. But the thing is, there are so many other things to quote and understand before you can understand this, because there is a context, right? So, anyway, because these things are there, therefore, the modern thing is, okay, we will not give you any answer in the beginning. We'll only criticize you. Whatever you say, oh, you say quantum theory is like this. Okay, here are all the problems. What is your answer? Cosmology is like this. Okay, here are so many problems. What is your answer? That is because we are counter questioning them, because this is the method that works for people. Otherwise, Krishna's method is, God, the process of premise, question, and answer is single person can produce everything. That is what happens during dreaming or imagination or creativity. You have a desire to produce something, and from that desire, a world is created.
I think that may answer the issue of I mean how the sages get the revelation and how they appear they happen to be correct also. I mean.
Yes, yes. Simply, if you have a sincere desire, that is enough. And again, I can cite so many places. Every time it is said that knowledge is within you. Okay? Knowledge is always within you, but it is existing like a potential, like fire is hidden in the wood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Fire is hidden in the wood, but there is a process by which we manifest the fire.
Right.
Okay, and this is also very deep discussion in Satkaryavad, where if you light a match and the the energy is not transferred from the matchbox to the wood. Okay, it is just correlation, not causation. Causation is fire is within the wood, it is manifest outside the wood. The matchbox is simply a correlation, and this is the reason that Arani, which is the fire used in a Vedic yagna, is always lighted by a mantra,
Mhm.
never by a matchbox, never by another fire, because whatever you are lighting, the fire that you are lighting with, let's say a matchbox, that has got some phosphorus or whatever, it's contaminated. It has got the properties of phosphorus, and if you happen to inhale the fumes, you will feel a pungent smell.
Mhm.
Okay. So that Arani is lighted. Similarly, anybody who simply, if you practice a little bit yoga or meditation and things like that, you can generate heat from within your body. You are feeling cold, you sit in a particular asana, you can generate heat. You can also, there are certain asanas, you're shivering, you perform that asana, you will start sweating.
Right.
Okay, we have to practice that. I mean, I'm saying this from practice and experience. You're shivering, you practice that asana, you will start sweating. Okay, why is that happening? Because the heat is already within you. You are thinking I'm cold. No, the heat is within you. There is a way to manifest it.
I think this
Okay.
is a very striking difference between Western approaches to solve a problem and Vedic
Yes,
approaches.
yes, yes. So this is why this verse is there. Atha Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahyam indriye
Mhm.
sevan mukhe hi jivado. What is the next line?
Swayameva Sfuratyadha.
Yes. Swayameva spurati adaha. Swayameva means automatically. Spurati means springing out like
Mhm.
a fountain.
Mhm.
Adaha means, from that source. Janamadasya adaha. So it is automatically springing out. That is also Satkaryevad, which means the love of God or any philosophical knowledge, everything is already within you right now.
Mhm. Right.
Okay. The external sources of information are simply like triggers. They are uh, what do you call correlated to my springing out. But it can happen without that also.
Mhm.
It can happen by our individual endeavor also.
Mhm.
Understand?
Right.
Yeah. So this logic is, I mean, if you study Nyaya philosophy, you see all these things. So it's a completely, this is, see, the problem is we are so accustomed to this binary logic.
Yeah.
Okay. Binary logic means it is either true or false.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's say then we talk about the three modes of material nature. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say tamoguna is, laziness, and rajoguna is aggression. Okay. Then what is sattoguna? Sattoguna is calmness,
Mhm.
right? So calm is neither lazy nor aggressive,
Yeah.
isn't it?
True.
Calm and silent and a quiet person is not a lazy person, and he is not an aggressive person. So we immediately get the problem that laziness and aggression are opposites, and there is something that is neither of these opposites. Okay.
When you say opposites means it could be very much multi-valued as well.
It can be multi-valued, but immediately it becomes multi-valued because the modes have so many incarnations or so many you know uh, qualities are created simply by the combination. So it seems multi-valued.
Why
But
I'm saying this, sorry to interrupt.
yeah, yeah,
Like we talk about three modes, then beyond the three modes also. So
yeah, yeah. So first of all, Sattva-guna is neither of these modes, neither of the two opposites.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Then there is Brahman, which is neither of the three.
Mhm. Precisely.
Okay, that is why it's called beyond the three modes. Then comes, Vaikuntha state, or higher realization, where all the three are there.
Mhm.
Okay, so for example, a devotee of Krishna is lazy in one sense. Okay, he's materially lazy.
Mhm.
Oh, let things go on. Why should I bother? He's lazy in one sense. He's very aggressive in another sense. If you say anything against Krishna, he will pounce upon you and he will, try to defeat you. He's very aggressive.
Yeah,
And he's also very calm.
we see in Srila Prabhupada's writings, he becomes furious
Yes.
oftentimes.
Yeah.
So,
So he is lazy in one sense, he is aggressive in another sense, and he is calm in another sense. So you cannot say he is not lazy or he is not aggressive, or like people say, oh, why is he so aggressive? He should be calm. Well, if you're talking about calm, you're talking about Sattva-guna. We are talking about beyond Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Beyond means all three. So there is a state, it's not a, not X, not, either X or not X. That is duality, one of the forms of duality. But there is an immediate Sattva itself, it's neither of these two. Then there is neither of the three. Then there is all the three. Okay. So this is one big problem of binary logic. We can never conceive even material world properly, because like I've explained in many videos, if you say head and tail is a coin, then what is a coin?
yeah.
Okay, coin is neither head nor tail, it is both head and tail.
Mhm.
So immediately you've broken the logic, and because they cannot break that logical principle, therefore they cannot be something called coin. There has to be only head or tail.
So here, I have a long time doubt. Can I ask
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, please keep.
So when we talk about like coin and head and tail, so two opposites, and behind the two opposites, we are talking about the unity. That's the coin
Yes,
in itself. But then I can fabricate another thing, the coin itself and not the coin. Something like the existence of the coin in totality, and then something in exactly opposite of that. So
yes, yes.
then where is the stop of the regression?
There is no, okay, so good question. Let me ask you this question. Suppose you see a cow,
Yeah.
okay? So sometimes you say it's a cow,
Mhm.
but you can also say it's not a tiger,
Yeah.
it's not a dog,
But
it's not
then
a horse,
they
it's
all
not
know.
a tree, it's not a mountain,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
okay?
Yeah.
So simply, how did you know that it is, you can say it is a cow, okay, fine, you're seeing. But
Mhm.
how are you seeing the absence of everything else?
Maybe just an imagination. I mean,
This is also Nyaya philosophy, there is where they say that when you see a cow, the absence of tiger, horse, dog, tree is in the cow.
yeah, it has to be logically consistent.
Otherwise, there is no fundamental foundation for non-contradiction. See, if you see Western logic, they simply frame things as rules. Okay,
That's
the
an
rule of
analytical.
non-contradiction, the rule of mutual exclusion, they have framed the rules.
Right.
Okay, these are just rules. Okay, where did you get the rules from? What if we change the rules? Who gave you the rules? They have no answer to this. But this logic also, this logical thing has to have an ontological basis.
Yeah, precisely.
It has to have a basis in reality, so that you can say, when you say, okay, this is a cow, it is automatically implied it is not a horse,
Right.
and it is also implied it is a mammal.
That the unity between both of them.
Yes, so the higher concept is automatically implied, it's embedded,
Mm.
and the same level concept like horse is it's not there. So how can you say cow is not a horse? This is a cow, fine, but
Mm.
it is not a horse. How did you come to that conclusion? Because the ontology is that there is an absence inside the presence.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, this is also absence, and this absence is sometimes manifest and sometimes unmanifest. This is also there. For example, like last time, we were talking about a square and a
Mm.
circle. Okay,
Right.
let's say the circle is not perfectly circular and the square is not perfectly, squarish.
Yeah.
Now when you compare the imperfect circle with the imperfect square, you can say, oh, this is a square and a circle. But if you compare it with, let's say, an ellipse or something oval, okay, at that time you may get a different designation. Okay,
Yeah.
so contextualization changes the word that we use for that. This problem also exists in a chair, right?
Mm.
Otherwise, let's say you have simply planks of wood, but when you contextualize, you say, oh, this is back, rest, or this is hand rest, these are legs. Okay,
Yeah.
and the hand rest is not the backrest, the backrest is not the seat is not the legs. So this absence is being created when you are bringing things in context,
Yeah. Right.
right? Like you can say mother and father, so you can say his father, that means is immediately implied is not mother, right?
Yeah.
But in that context, you're simply talking about father and mother. You are not saying that, oh, his father means he is not mother, that also means he is not president, that also means he is not employed. No.
Mm.
How many negations should we use?
That is dependent on the context.
Exactly.
Mm.
So context plays a very important role in which assertions and which negations can be applied. Okay.
Yeah. Can I
So
ask something?
yeah. So let me just finish that point. So when you say this is a cow, okay, in some context it is automatically implied it's not a horse. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not that every time you see a cow, you go on saying, "Oh, it's not a tiger, not a dog, not a horse, not a cloud, not a tree, not a mountain." This is ridiculous. In some context, you will say, like if there was a cow and a horse grazing in the field,
Mm.
and you say that is a cow, it is out, understood. Oh, it's different from the horse. But if there is no tiger on the field, nobody will talk about that. So that absence is also being created and removed depending upon the context. So this is extremely complicated. So the final thing is, even things that are the cow is not are in the cow. Okay.
Yeah.
If you do not agree to that, then you have no foundation for non-contradiction or mutual exclusion.
Mm.
Okay.
This is interesting.
Logic collapses because if you do not accept this ontological principle. Okay, so Nyaya is going into simply discussing how can you say a cow is not a horse? Okay, that is because horse is absent in the cow, but it is present as an absence.
Yeah. Precisely. Yeah, this
Okay,
is interesting.
sorry, it took a long time.
No, no, that's interesting actually. In this context, one thing that comes to my mind is the Western way of handling logic, eventually, which translates to in the modern parlance, basically mathematics, I would say. So there,
Yes,
we don't have context. We do have, since a very, very limited sense. I mean, I think for all practical purpose, we don't talk about context. Just a not a. I mean, when these things are binary logic is satisfied, then we consider that as proof. So,
actually, logic doesn't lead to mathematics.
oh, this is interesting. Could you explain that?
Yes, so there is a school called Logicism. Okay, it was started, or there was a view that mathematics should be simply reduced to logic.
Mm.
That school is called Logicism. It was started at the beginning of 20th century, and there were two guys in it, Bertrand Russell and A.N. Whitehead, Alfred North Whitehead.
Yeah.
And these two guys wrote three huge volumes called Principia Mathematica, in which they were simply trying to produce the outcome that how to prove that 1 plus 1 equal to 2 based purely on logic. Okay.
Okay.
And they did succeed, but once they had, I mean, of course, logic itself cannot do that. So they were employing sets also.
Mm.
So logic and set theory. And I'll come to that. This is something I discussed in Vedanta Sutra at the beginning.
Mm.
So they were using logic and sets, two things. And then they found out, Bertrand Russell himself pointed out, that this is not a logically consistent system because set theory is full of contradictions. And why that contradiction arises is because, let's say you make a set of horses. Okay.
Okay.
So you can ask, what is a horse? You can say, oh, it's the collection of all the horses. Okay, that's their definition. But you can say, well, how did you put things inside the set? You must have known it is a horse so that you do not put a cow in that set.
Yeah.
Okay. So before you construct the set of horses, you must know what is a horse.
Mm.
And that is before set construction. That means you must have a priori knowledge of what is a horse. Then you use that knowledge to identify this is a horse and that is a cow and that is a tiger, and let me only put the horse in the set.
Mm.
Right. And
Yeah.
then after you do that, then you get a set and you call that a horse. But that is not the only notion of horseness. The horseness is something you were aware of before, right? So this is Sankhya framework. You are the meaning horse first exists in the mind. There
Mm.
it is defined. You can say, what is a horse? Oh, horse has a tail and 2 ears and it has no what do you call horns, and and so on and so forth, color, shape, size, whatever. That is Tanamatra. Then you describe Bhuta. This is the definition of the horse. Then you identify a specific thing called a horse. Then you, so they could not, logic itself cannot do anything in the Western conception of logic. Okay. They also need set theory. But the question is, what is set theory? Set theory is they try to reduce concepts to sets, but that construction doesn't work because of this problem of, you need to know what is a horse before you can construct the set horse. Okay. But it works in Vedic philosophy because we start with the chit, right? There is a premise. That premise is full of all the answers. So a doubt arises, a question arises. What does that question do? It simply selects from what is previously existing. It is a memory recall. It is knowing oneself. You understand? Okay. So this is not set theory in the sense that set is simply a collection of objects. It is consciousness. Consciousness has self-awareness, or it has, uh, you know, uh, everything about the self is already in the self.
Yeah.
It is may not be manifest. It may not be in the, uh, you know, uh, cognition, and therefore, when you become, when you cognize it, then you say it was there in me, but now I am aware of it. Okay.
Yeah. This is true.
So the thing is that mathematics is simply logic is actually not true. This attempt has been made and it is a failed attempt.
So it can never capture the whole of reality in its essence. I mean, it cannot
Yeah,
talk about.
forget about whole of it, whole of anything, right? Whole is very big, right? Whole, I'm talking about, if you include the whole, if you just include yourself in that whole parts of it, your thoughts, your sensation, your perceptions, your morals, your intentions or goals, or your recollections, your memory, your history, everything is, I mean, everything includes all these things, right?
Yeah.
Today, they are not even able to explain sensation.
Yeah.
Forget about any deeper reality. So, where is the question of everything?
Mm.
They have made assumptions that there are physical particles which are completely separate from each other. This is the foundation of logic.
Yeah.
Okay, their foundation is that mutual exclusion exists because there are two separate things. Okay, A and B are two separate things. Therefore, if it is A, it should not be B. But linguistically and logically, it doesn't follow that,
True.
right?
Mm.
So, and this problem arises if I say, for example, he's a father. Does it mean he's not an employee?
Yeah.
Or does it mean he's, how many things? What are the implications of saying he's a father? There is no implication other than he's a father. So they can only conclude that, oh, he's a father means the reverse is he has a son or he has a daughter. Even that you cannot conclude because maybe it's a son, maybe it's a daughter, maybe it's,
Yeah.
maybe it's an adopted child. I mean, see this is the issue that, but in Nyaya you would see that simply if you say it's a cow and if you fully know the cow, then you can know what it is not.
Sorry. How do I really know what is? I
That
mean.
is the whole thing. It may not be perceivable, but it is existing in there.
Mm.
Okay, at least logically and
Logically, I can.
conceptually, we say it is the thing is existent,
Mm.
right? But it is unmanifest. In the same way that fire is unmanifest in the wood, in the same way that knowledge is currently unmanifest in you.
Yeah.
Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matsthani sarvabhutani na chaham teshu avasthita. So there is this concept of avyakta murti.
Mm.
Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. This whole world is pervaded by me in an unmanifest form. Okay?
Right.
So God is in everything, even in a table, even in a chair, in a cup, in everything, in atom. Even in an atom, God is there. But you can't see it. You understand?
Yeah.
Similarly, when you say there is a cow, that it is not a horse is there in an avyakta murtina.
It's the same logic that we are talking about the
Yes,
cause being carried inside the effect.
yes, right. So there are some positive effects. There are some, I mean, certain effects can be caused because the cause is in the effect. But certain things you can deduct that they will not cause
Mm.
because that thing is there and yet not there.
Yeah.
And that is what is called abhava.
Mm.
It is existing as absence.
Right.
Okay,
So,
it's
if
a
I.
revolutionary concept. I mean, you cannot imagine how revolutionary that idea is. Of course, people say, "Oh, Indians invented zero and all these things," but what they invented is abhava.
Mm.
You know, absence exists. Okay, so if you read Nyaya Sutra commentary, there is extensive discussion of many examples of you know things like that. Like for example, you go into an empty room, okay,
Yeah.
and you say, "Oh, there is no sofa in this room." How do you know there is no sofa? You can only make assertions about what you can see.
Mm-hmm.
How can you make an assertion about
No.
what I'm not seeing?
Yeah. Again, there is an easy way to escape. Is I mean, we're not talking about metaphysical. Real. The context is not metaphysical, so we're just.
Yeah. So through examples we can understand numerous problems that are created. So your thing, so go back to your question where you said that
Yeah. Yeah.
mathematics is nothing but logic. It's actually not logic. In the best case scenario, there has been an attempt to use set theory and logic and that attempt has failed, and therefore there were surmises that, oh, maybe set theory and logic is a bad foundation, maybe something else.
So what is that? What could be that?
It could be anything. Okay, therefore then Godel showed that doesn't matter whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? So his proof shows that any system of arithmetic, what does it mean, any system of arithmetic? Any system of arithmetic will always be inconsistent or incomplete. That means you have tried to do create a foundation for arithmetic using set theory and logic, but let's say we create something else, we use some other axioms or some other assumptions. That's a different system of that's a different foundation of arithmetic. It's a different system of arithmetic, right? But it is still arithmetic. 2 plus 2 equal to 4. Even if you do that, it will still be inconsistent and incomplete. That is why it was so fatal. Because if, let's say, set theory and logic had failed, and you could say, well, Ian Whitehead and Bertrand Russell's attempt failed, maybe there is something else, let's look for something else. And people have been trying, let's create new things, new foundations for mathematics. Yeah, but Gödel showed that it's not possible.
This is really very interesting. If I go back to one question more, so I was talking about if you trace back the regression. So I was trying to understand if whether it is possible through Nyaya that I can start from rudimentary material objects around me, and I can construct back the logic to the source of the fountainhead of everything.
Yes.
So is that possible?
Yes, it's possible. That Prabhupada also talks about in one place. He says, you go on deeper, deeper, deeper. Uses this word deeper, 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 and you'll find God. So
Yeah.
what is deeper? Okay. What is deeper? Deeper example is, let's say you see, red. Okay. So you can say, okay, what is red? The deeper thing is it's a color. So can you see color? No, you cannot. You can say, oh, show me where is color. You can't show color. You can only show red and blue and green and yellow. Can you show color? You can't show color.
Yeah, these ontological questions are, hard to answer.
Yeah. So see, that is the thing, that's the whole point of what is deeper. Deeper also requires deeper perception.
Yeah.
So if you limit yourself to saying that, oh, I will not, I will only measure frequency, okay, then you cannot define, you can measure frequency, but you can't define what is frequency by that. That's, even physicists have recognized that.
True.
So you pick an arbitrary instrument and say this instrument is frequency. It's like kilogram, for example. Just like in classical mechanics, there is this question of what is mass. Okay. The problem is you can't measure mass unless there is gravity. In empty space, if you go, you can't measure mass. Okay. You must have a gravitational effect. Okay. And you will not get gravitational effect unless you've got mass.
Yeah. Cyclic.
Okay, so gravity depends on mass, mass depends on gravity. This is cyclical definition. How do you break that cycle? That cycle is broken by, let's pick some platinum solid that is called the kilogram, which is kept in the Paris Museum of International Standards, and we will call that kilogram. But people don't understand. That is not just kilogram, it is mass. It is the definition of mass. So what is mass? Don't ask that question. Just look at that thing that is kept in the Paris Museum of International Standards, and that is the definition of mass. This is a philosophy called operationalism. It was done by a person called P.W. Bridgman. He's a Nobel laureate. And how he came to this conclusion is he was doing experiment on pressure of gases. Okay, so he used to use pressure gauges, instrument to measure pressure. And what happens is, a gauge only works in a certain range. Okay. So let's say, from, this X range to Y range, this pressure gauge was, and when the pressure goes higher, that gauge goes bust. So he has to create another gauge and then another gauge. So for higher and higher pressure, he had to create more and more gauges. How does he know that this is a continuous, sequence of gauges? He has absolutely is a very difficult process to know because he has to calibrate the new gauge using the old gauge.
Right.
Okay. So after numerous such problems in calibrating gauges and trying to define, he came to the conclusion that this word called pressure is absolutely meaningless. Okay.
Right.
It is nothing but I have chosen some gauge.
Mhm.
I'm you, and in that gauge a pointer moves. And that movement of the pointer is I call that pressure.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
So this is the state of modern science. They cannot define any word. What they can define is things. So what is mass? It is a thing. Don't, it's not a conceptual thing. It is a physical, the object thing, which is, the kilogram, the pressure is a specific gauge, the temperature is nothing but a specific thermometer, the movement, I mean, so every property is a particular object. Okay, that is not deeper. So if you want to go deeper, then you say, oh, there must be something, that is pervading out in millions of objects. Not every object. Color is not there in every object. Some objects are colorless, right? Odor is not there in every object. Some things are odorless,
Mm.
correct? Some things are tasteless. So, but there is a property which is in many, 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 many things, and I cannot see that property. So it is a deeper. How do I see it? That is the first level of. So even if you say, how do I go deeper? Okay, you are seeing red or green or blue. Color is the next level deep. Then similarly, from there you can go even deeper. Seeing or sight or seeability,
Mhm.
what you call visibility.
Mhm.
Visibility is even deeper.
I don't distinguish.
Huh?
I'm not able to distinguish how seeability and visibility.
Seeability, visibility is the same thing. I'm not trying to make a distinction between these two.
Okay.
Okay. Visibility comprises of at least three properties. One is color, one is shape, whatever
Mhm.
we call, form and size. Okay. So you look at a phone, it has, rectangular shape. Okay, it has some size. It has some color. Maybe it's black or gray or whatever it is. So that is visibility. So there is something deeper than color, shape, and size. That is visibility.
Yeah.
If you do not understand what is visibility, then you, so this is the thing that we talked about last time. This is the process of derivation. From a
Mm.
higher concept, you derive a lower concept. Okay.
Mhm.
So deeper means what is this? What is red derived from? Answer is color. What is color derived from? Visibility. What is visibility derived from? It's the ability to give things meaning. So in this way, there is, you go on going deeper, deeper, deeper.
Then you reach the fountainhead of all thinking.
Yes, yes. So
Revolve.
you can do this conceptual analysis, and Sankhya philosophy is doing this conceptual analysis.
Yeah. So.
But the problem is in modern science, they don't want to do that conceptual analysis. So they will, if you ask them what is mass, they may do some word jugglery, but finally they will say mass means nothing other than this thing that is kept in the Paris Museum. That is the definition of mass. Similarly, time or second or minute means nothing. It's just that specific, atomic clock that's kept in this place. That is the definition of time.
There is one easy way to escape is as often done in scientific practices for the maybe for pragmatic purposes, I guess. We refer to the symbols he used to represent some abstract notion behind those. I mean, say for example, mass. So for the moment, I can say that let us not worry about what it is really ontologically, and let us assign a symbol m or some whatever convenient,
Yeah, yeah.
and continue with that. And whenever we need to quantify it, so we'll refer to whatever kept in Paris as a standard. So,
Yes.
how does that really? I mean, contradict. I mean, I'm just trying to understand. So how does that contradict the Vedic notion in the sense that there is really something, some ontological idea that is the mass. I mean, something physical, something that exists.
See, you run out of the words. Okay, I understand your
Yeah, I think
point
you
is
understood.
that, see, even if you want to do that, okay, you have two worlds:
Yeah.
a mathematical world of symbols and logic, and
Mhm.
a real world, what you call material world or the empirical world.
Yeah.
Okay, so in philosophy, they'll say there's a rational world, which is the Platonic world, and there is a real world, which is the substance world. You come back to the same substance form problem. What is form now? Mathematics is form.
Yeah.
What is substance? Whatever you call matter or empirical observation, that
Mhm.
is for, substance for you. The word can be rationalism versus empiricism, form versus substance, mind versus body, soul
Yeah.
versus consciousness, religion versus science.
Yeah, this will go on.
Even in science,
Yeah.
even this is the problem, but even in science, this thing
Mhm.
has existed. Science cannot exist without both reason and observation. So they'll talk about what is science? Oh, the use of reason and observation. Okay, fine, please hold there. No more further. Let's discuss how reason and observation interact.
No answer.
No answer, because it is the same Platonic problem of form versus substance, the mind versus body, the soul
Precisely.
versus consciousness, the
Precisely.
science versus religion.
Yeah.
So even Gödel became, when he found this problem, incompleteness problem, he came to the same conclusion. Because he was asking himself, okay, how do you know? So Gödel's incompleteness is that we cannot actually prove all the mathematical truths. So
Mhm.
this naturally leads to the question: how do I? It does it mean that I can never know that they are true? And he became a Platonist, and no, no, we'll know intuitively. Mathematical truth is in another Platonic world, and I can know that intuitively, but I can never prove it to you.
Yeah.
That is a religious assertion,
Yeah.
is it not? Because I can also say, I cannot prove the existence of God to you, but I know by intuition,
Mm.
isn't it?
Yeah. That,
I do not know if I cannot show Indra, Chandra, Surya, Varun and Agni, all these things to you, but I know them intuitively.
mhm.
Is it not? So
Yeah.
this has become religion. Mathematics also, Gödel himself, what is Platonism is nothing but religious belief.
Mm. Right.
Because you can't prove it, but you want to believe that it
Mm.
exists. And
So,
you claim to know it intuitively.
yeah, right. So I see the time is 8:36. We have anyway. So we had a very good discussion. So
We can go on if you have more things. It depends on,
maybe we can continue for a few more minutes, or
yeah,
maybe 20 minutes. So originally I started with the question that the nature of proof, how it differs.
yeah,
So as we learned from our traditions that the scriptural testimony as revealed by the teacher to the master, that is
yes.
considered the topmost. But again, that is not illogical. That is fully rational, and I mean, one can find proper reasons behind them. But at the same time, we do talk about something called, I mean, Dibya Pratyaksha, I mean, transcendental vision as the basis of those revelations.
Yeah.
When we talk about uh, the nature of proof as it is existent in today's time, when we are struggling with reconciling different opposites. So this part, which is otherwise the as per the Vedic tradition, the topmost way of establishing something, so that doesn't really come into the picture. So so then, is there a way how, I mean, somebody who is trained in a modern scientific practices, he may appreciate of such a system where the revelation of whatever sort, it plays a fundamental role in establishing or
Yeah, I got your question. It's the same question of faith versus reason and observation,
yeah,
right? This is something I have extensively discussed. There are videos on this podcast on it,
yeah, okay, I
books
got
on it.
it.
The basic difference. There are two ways to use reason and observation. Okay, one way is verification, other way is discovery. Okay, so when we say that Shabda Praman is there, we are
Mhm.
not saying it is a method by of faith.
Yeah, exactly.
People who don't know Vedic philosophy will say, oh, it is all by faith. No.
Mhm.
Information has been given, okay, and that information can be verified using reason and experience.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay. So reason and experience are used for verification. Whereas in science, they will say we will discover the truth using
Reason and
verification and experience.
mhm.
Okay. So the fundamental contention is between discovery versus verification. Okay. Now, if you know a little bit computer science, there is a famous conjecture which is called P not equal to NP. Okay. Don't go by the words. Okay. P means polynomial time, NP means non-polynomial time.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
And P not equal to NP simply means the time that it takes to verify, which is P,
Mhm.
okay, is not equal to the time that it takes to discover.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I give this example of password cracking. So you are given a computer, for example.
Yeah, all
Okay.
law frameworks work on that principle.
Yes.
Right.
So all cryptography, all encryption always works on this P not equal to NP principle.
Mhm.
Okay. So you are given a computer and say, please unlock it.
Mhm.
Okay. So you go on, enter some password, it doesn't work. Enter next password, enter third password. Okay. It doesn't work. So you are using reason and experience to crack the password, or you can say discover the password. Okay. But I can tell you what the password is,
Mhm.
and you can still use reason and experience to enter the password and see that it unlocks the computer. Okay. So reason and experience has been used for verification, not for discovery.
Mhm.
So there is no point, there is this contradiction between Shabda, Pratyaksha, and Anumana does not exist. They have their separate roles.
Mhm. True.
Okay. For those people who do not know the truth, okay,
Mhm.
Shabda is one way. We can tell you the truth, you can use reason and observation to confirm it, and that's most of what I have done in terms of not everything, but many of the books are like that. Like I apply all these with the concepts about matter and modes of nature, time, and things like that to so many problems in arithmetic, in computer science, in quantum mechanics, relativity, the problem of time, and so on, psychology, sociology. You can go on applying these concepts. Okay. What am I doing? I've taken some basic concepts. What are the basic concepts? There is sattva, rajas, and tamas. There is soul has three properties. Very simple. And I am applying that. Right. So I'm using reason and observation. Observation is coming from that subject, physics, maths, whatever it is. And I'm using reason to apply these concepts. And I'm showing that, look, These concepts are being proven even in these things. And if you don't use these concepts, you have a problem. But if you use this concept, your problem will be solved.
Yeah.
Right? So that is application of reason and experience. But I did not discover the concept by that method. Okay, I got the method, I got the concept from the Vedic scripture. So I use Sabda Praman, then I use Pratyaksha and Anumana. Okay, this is one way. But like I was talking last time, forget about philosophy, forget about all the books, just chant Hare Krishna.
Yeah. It would be really.
Okay, so by that, it is Pratyaksha.
Mm. True.
Okay, by that Pratyaksha, you get even you don't need Shabda Pramana.
Mm.
But at least you have accepted some Shabda. Okay, we have to chant Hare Krishna mantra, not some mumbo jumbo. So Shabda is not totally discarded, but simply in that one mantra, everything is there. Vidyavadhu Jivanam.
Mm.
Right? Simply from one mantra, everything can come. So this is, you cannot say that everything has to be Shabda. It doesn't have to be Shabda. It can also be Pratyaksha. Like I was explaining, the movement of consciousness, up and down, up and down, up and down, right?
Yeah.
Inward, outward. Like last time we discussed all these things.
Yeah.
I cannot show it to you, but I can tell you a process by which you can experience it yourself.
Yeah. Right.
Right? So that is all Pratyaksha. So where is Sabda?
Yes.
Not necessary. It
Yeah.
may be there. It's like I was giving the example, yogi withdraws the consciousness inward like the tortoise withdraws the limb. Or, those who are not devotees, the Sasti Bhakti, those who are non-devotees, they are running here and there, sitting on the chariot of the mind. That Krishna also says mind, running is the, and the rain, what is the intelligence is the reins of the horses, senses are the horses. That
Mhm.
example he gives, and he says it's running here and there, running outwardly here, So these, you can experience that the everything that is given in Sabda can be Pratyaksha and it can be Anumana. So this is one of the things. If you read that Nyaya Sutra commentary, this is the whole Nyaya essentially is all about epistemology. What are the different ways? You
Mhm.
can know everything by direct experience, everything by reason, everything by mysticism, everything by scriptural evidence. There is, it's not that one method is incomplete and therefore we need the second method, which is the problem that the Western philosophy has been trying to solve for 2000 years,
So the
right?
notion that oftentimes the portrayal of the hierarchy of different epistemological threads like Pratyaksha, then better than that is Anumana, better than that is
There's no such hierarchy. At least, even if you say there is such hierarchy, you cannot, you show it to me. You establish that based on philosophy.
Mhm.
You cannot establish that based on philosophy. All the methods are equally good. But for the stupid mind, he has to start somewhere, right? If we are totally ignorant, how do we start from somewhere? We have to, like, for example, Dhruva Maharaj, okay,
Mhm.
5-year-old boy, he is not grown enough to understand philosophy.
Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
so Narad Muni has given him Dwadashakshar mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yeah.
6 months he has gotten everything, isn't it?
Yeah. Right.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 12 syllables. By 12 syllables, he got everything. So, where is the question of this Shabda is, he did not read any book, if
Yeah, he
that's what you,
experienced himself everything.
yeah?
He experienced God
Yes,
himself directly.
yes. So, you can say, what is Sabda Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva is the only thing he has done,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Am I manufacturing this example, or
No.
no?
So what I
So Om Namo
understood is,
Bhagavat, yeah, in 6 months with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva, he's gotten everything.
what I understood is pratyaksha and anuman, the logic and direct perception in in their perfected stage, they are at par with the sabda. I mean, they're the same system only.
Yes, yes, all the methods are there. This is a deeper point. Maybe we'll discuss if you're interested, that truth has to be understood from 6 aspects.
What
Okay.
are those?
Yeah, the 6 aspects is in modern science, or in ordinary conversation, there are 6 questions. What happened, where it happened, when it happened, how it happened, why it happened, and who did it.
Mm. Six causes.
6 causes are there. This is a book in itself, but I've also done a perspective way of studying philosophy. These
Mhm.
are the 6 systems of philosophy. 6 perspectives. Why 6 are required? You can say, why not fit into everything? Everything into one perspective. We cannot fit that. And to understand this thing is, we have to understand that even if you completely answer one of the 6 questions, like what, when, where, why, how, who, you answer one of the 6 questions completely, you would not get the answer to the other 5 questions. So let's say we say, what is happening? Oh, it's raining outside. Okay, why is it raining? Okay, so when you say it is raining, many other answers are eliminated. Many other answers to why are eliminated. You cannot say because the tree was swinging here and there, therefore it is raining. That's not a valid conclusion from this. Okay, but it can still rain in many ways. Okay, so you do this. This is the problem of complementarity in physics. If you know quantum mechanics, you will understand the
Right.
answer to one type of question doesn't fix the answer to the other, but it constrains the answer.
Mm. True.
Okay,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
this is one of the bhedas thing. Whereas because the answer to what doesn't fix the who, why, when, how, where. Therefore, you can say that who, why, when, where, you know, these are separate from the question of why or what, right? What is different from where, when, how, who, uh, why,
Mm.
okay? What is different? But you cannot answer the question of what independent of the other 5. You
Right.
understand? Like I give the example of Second World War. Okay, what happened? The war happened. How did it happen? Some tanks and ships were involved. Who did it? Some soldiers were there. Okay.
Mm.
So what happened? The Second World War. I cannot. And when it happened, okay, 1940, 45, it ended. So this answer to how it happened, which means tanks and ships and submarines and things like that, is not independent of when it happened.
Right.
If you go 200 years ago, there was no submarine, so it couldn't have happened this way,
Mm.
right? Similarly, this war could not happen in this way with another different set of people. Some people would fight with clubs and bows and arrows and things like that. So all the 6 questions are the 6 questions are different and they are not separable.
Mm.
Okay,
Right.
this is a huge discussion about what is Veda Ved. This is one of the ways in which it's Veda Ved. There are 6 questions and 6 answers. All the 6 questions are distinct questions, but they are not separable questions.
Right.
Distinct but not separable.
Mm. Very
Like
interesting.
soul is distinct from God, but soul is not separable from God.
Mm.
Matter is distinct from God, but matter is not separable from God. Soul is distinct from matter, but in this condition, soul, the matter is not separable from the soul. The soul is not separable. That non-separability is called entanglement, right? So there is distinct but non-separable. In the same way, Sabda, Pramana, Pratyaksha, Anumana, all these things are distinct,
Yeah,
but don't say they are totally separable.
yeah. This would be totally wrong thing to say. I understand.
Yes. So this is the broader principle of Bheda Bhed.
Mm.
When you take Bheda Bhed philosophy, apply it everywhere. Don't say, oh, it doesn't apply to epistemology. No.
Mm.
How can I say reality is different and non-different? And then I say knowing methods are different. They are also different and non-different. What that simply means is this. Okay. By doing philosophy, your bhakti will increase. By bhakti, your knowledge will increase. Philosophy will understand better.
Mm.
Okay.
Right.
This is not like, oh, philosophy is speculation and bhakti is devotion, and they are two separate things. Bhed, abhed. It's like you have a cube with 6 faces. If you see one face, you may say it's a square. If you see the second face, maybe we don't know what it is.
Mm.
As you go on seeing the 6 faces one by one, you know it is, you become more and more convinced it is a cube. But there are 6 perspectives,
Yeah.
right? So each perspective will better answer the remaining questions of the other 5 perspectives. And each answer will confirm the doctrines of the other perspectives.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. Sorry.
So
Sorry
there's
to interrupt.
mutual affirmation, mutual these things. Yeah. So similarly, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes all these yoga processes. For example, somebody can say, "Oh, we are Bhakti Yogi, we are not Ashtanga Yogi." Okay, is that really so? The first 2 steps of Ashtanga Yoga are Yama and Niyama. So, are you following some Yama? No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. That is Yama.
Mm.
That is precisely what Yama is.
Mm.
Okay, then Niyama, every day do this 16 rounds of chanting. Is that not a Niyama?
Yeah. Right.
That is a Niyama,
Mm.
right? Then Asana, okay, don't run here and there, sit in one place. Similarly, if you chant with a proper, let's say you breathe in, chant 3 times. That is 3 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 3 times your breath
Yeah.
breathed out.
Mm.
Then you breathe in again. Then 3, breathe out, breathe in again. That is pranayama.
Yeah. It contains.
Everything is happening, it's just not called by that word.
Mm.
Okay. Then pratyahara. What is pratyahara? Senses are concentrating on the sound.
Mm.
Then dharana, mind is concentrating on the sound. So yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dhyan, dharana. And then when you're fully done, like we talked about last time, uh, sthita prajna, that is samadhi.
Yeah. Right.
So Bhakti Yoga is also Ashtanga Yoga. This contradiction is not there if you properly understand what Ashtanga Yoga is.
That's why probably Srila Prabhupada in his commentary to Bhagavad Gita, right from first chapter, he
Yes, he
starts
always talks about
the
Bhakti.
yeah.
Even if Krishna is talking about Karma Yoga, he will say, oh, it is action with devotion.
Devotion.
Because this absolute dichotomies are never there
Mm.
for one who understands these
Right.
things. But in principle, you can say Karma Yoga means simply, like Krishna explains, doing your duties. But his conception of, see, there are 2 kinds of duties. One is, let's say you have duty towards the family, or take a very mundane example, paying taxes to the government.
Mm.
Okay, that is a duty. Okay. Now, this is not like a Krishna conscious duty or devotional duty. Versus if you are doing something for the family who are also devotees, that you can say it's a more spiritual. So, but at the same time, if you do not pay taxes, right, uh, chaos will, ensue, right? So you cannot also say that this is different from bhakti.
Mm.
This is why you have to use bheda and abheda. Bhakti is different from paying taxes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
It is different because there is a difference.
Mm. Yes.
And yet, by paying taxes, I'm able to practice bhakti nicely.
Mm.
So there is abhed.
Yeah, this is a very nice way to bring Veda with in a broader context. This was very
Yes. Yeah.
nice.
So
Yes.
this absolute type of dichotomies and things like that, they're all based on incompletely understanding or never understanding philosophy.
Mhm.
Okay. But
Right.
so to answer your question, this pratyaksha, anuman, sabda, um, because pratyaksha also has many meanings. Even meditation is, you can say it's pratyaksha, but that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about seeing through the senses. That is
Mm.
pratyaksha.
Right.
Right? So there's no contradiction, but at the same time, some things are more suited for certain people in certain stages of life.
Mhm.
Okay, in the initial stage of life, it's recommended that you read philosophy books so that you get convinced, right? Otherwise, somebody will meet you on the street and they will say, "Oh, what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm going to the temple." "Ah, what is this fool? What are these fools jumping up and down, going to the temple? What is the use? It's all stone and metal they are worshipping." So you need philosophy, because that kind of arrogant and rhetorical attitude will create doubts in you. Okay? Oh, is this really God or is it stone or metal? So you need to study philosophy so that you become convinced.
Right.
But at some point in time, that philosophy alone will not work. You have to get detachment.
Mm.
So then karma yoga is important. So initially jnana yoga, then karma yoga. But then that detachment also will not serve. You have to do meditation.
Mm.
Okay, and that meditation also will not work unless and until there is inner joy coming out of you. Because after some years, you will get bored of philosophy, you will get bored of daily duties, you will get bored of this meditation unless there is happiness coming,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So all these things, they are not mutually exclusive and they are not identical.
Mm.
What they are different perspectives on the same thing. Six different
Six different.
perspectives are required. Why six? Okay, that is a big discussion.
Maybe sometime, some other time.
But yes, you can, there are many ways to understand, but yes, multiple perspectives are there, let's say.
Yeah. True. Yeah, sorry, I was only talking from the participant side. So, if somebody in there in the participant, they have any burning question, please feel free to ask. Maybe just one, two more, if you kindly agree. Yeah, already we took 1.5 hours of yours. So I see it's few. Anybody in the audience, if they have anything to ask, or from these discussions. So originally we planned to discuss how different ideas developed in the course of Indian intellectual history. So anyway, we couldn't cover up. So maybe next time we can try to see other philosophies, like apart from we talked many things. I think mostly around epistemology, basically. So maybe
Yeah,
next
it
time.
is it is better to discuss, things that are burning questions in your mind, because when you have a question, then the knowledge is assimilated.
Yeah, right.
Okay, if I try to pontificate or preach to you something, this is how it is, but you have no question,
Mhm.
the whole thing will bounce off the head,
Yeah, will
right?
never be assimilated also.
It will not be assimilated. So you have to have a question, and then when it's like a socket and a ball, okay?
Mm.
So question is the socket, and the answer is the ball. So if we throw the ball, but there is no socket, ball will fall. But if there is a socket, then the ball will fit in the socket.
Yeah. Nice analogy. So
Actually, I do have a question.
yeah, please.
Yes.
Just want to understand, sir, can you just speak a little bit about Anumana? What I believe is, I don't know if I'm using the right words here. What I believe is that most of my life I have spent using Anumana, and gradually a lot of things got pratyaksh for me. And now I'm trying to learn the words to communicate to others what it has been like. So, could you maybe take a few minutes to talk about Anumana?
Yeah. So it's a very, very complicated topic. Anumana. Everything is very complicated if we try to put things into complete perspective. Okay. So Anumana is the thing is um, what a thing is. Like if you see something that's pratyaksha is you are seeing, let's say you are seeing an apple. So you can say it's a red, round, and sweet. Okay. And then Anumana is that it is apple. There's a difference between red, round, and sweet and apple. Anumana is something done by the mind. It's giving the world a meaning. Okay. So, sense perception, you can see certain things, let's say color, shape, size, all these things, and then you give these things a meaning. And culture, for example, is a very good, context in this case. What is culture? Culture is, let's say, for example, in India, you want to show respect, you fold your hands. Okay. So, folding hands is sense perception, but you say, oh, he's showing me respect. That thing is Anumana. Because if you go to Japan or East Asian countries or China, for example, they do not show respect by folding hands. They show respect by bowing down. Okay. Similarly, in the Western European countries, they will bend one knee. That is their way of showing respect. Okay. So sensations are different. In one case, I'm folding hand. In another case, I'm bending from the hip downward, and another case I'm bending the knee. Sensations are different. The meaning is the same, respect. Okay, because three or innumerable different types of sensations equate to the same meaning. Therefore, sensation and meaning are not different, are not the same. Similarly, I can show the respect also in different ways. Instead of folding my hands, I can offer obeisances, right? So that is also, uh, you know, respect. So Anumana simply means understanding the meaning of things. Okay, and that meaning comes to us in many, many ways. I gave you one example. You see red, round, and sweet, and you say, "Oh, that's an apple." You see black and something, and say it's a computer, it's a table, it's a chair. That's one kind of meaning. Similarly, you read a sentence, sense perception is squiggles, right? Shapes of words and shapes of letters which aggregate into words. But what is the meaning of the sentence? That is Anumana. And that Anumana is a very complex process because it's tied to the nature of meaning. Okay, so some meaning is known by context, some meaning is known by hierarchy, some meaning is known by distinction to what it is not. Like we said, it's a cow. Cow means it's not a horse. Okay, cow means it's a mammal. And sometimes, uh, you know, uh, like you can say, he is just like a cow. That doesn't mean he's a cow. He means it's gentle. Okay. So the word, what does it actually mean? That is Anumana. Does that answer your question?
And at the end of the day, it's everybody will have their own individual perception,
Yes.
and basis that we can say that when we experience life, even if what is pratyaksh to me could be different from what is pratyaksh to somebody else,
Yes.
and how we collaborate. so that we can live, together, is to form shabda, is to actually form concepts out of different perceptions and say, okay, generally this is what it is perceived as, and thus, make certain belief systems.
No,
And
the senses are coming from the mind. Indriyani parani ahur indriyabhya param manaha manasastu para buddhi buddhe parasastu saha. So the soul will manifest some beliefs. Okay, this is called buddhi. From the beliefs will come meanings. Based on your beliefs, you will give the world a certain kind of meaning. From the certain kind of, based on the meanings that you want or you want to give, you will select the sense perception that will fit with the meaning you want to give. Right? Like, for example, you want to say that such and such is a good person. You want to believe, like, you want to give that meaning. You will tend to ignore the actions which do not fit that assessment. Okay. Similarly, if you want to see evil, like, you would see only those things that fit that paradigm of things that are evil. So this is it is top down. It is from soul to certain belief systems which lead to judgments, which then lead to giving the meanings, which then lead to selection of sensations, which then even lead to what objects you are created. This is a top down system. Doesn't mean bottoms up is not there, right? Once certain things have been created, then you can perceive. But the question is, you said everybody will perceive it differently. Why? What is the cause of different perception? The cause is that you have a different desire to see the world in a different way, because you have a different belief system, different moral values, different. There's a big system of how you make that selection of sense perception, right? So even simple things like, if you are standing in a room, three people are talking, you are paying attention to one person and not to the other person. Why you choose that? Because you have interest in something, you're not interested in something else. So the sensations are selected based on the meaning. Similarly, sensations are produced based on the meaning. Both are there, right? So Anumana is basically that activity of perceiving the meaning. And because Indiyani Parani Ahur Indrebhya Param Manaha, the senses are higher than the objects, the mind is higher than the senses. The intelligence is higher than the mind, and the soul is higher than the intelligence. Right? So this is this progressive thing. So Pratyaksha pertains to the sense perception, which is Indriyani Parani Ahur. The senses are perceiving the objects. Then Manasastu para Indriyabhya param manaha, the mind is superior than the senses. So this Anumana pertains to the mind. But mind is not alone. Above that is also intelligence. Right? That what that intelligence is basically what I consider true and false, right and wrong, good and bad. There are three kinds of judgments. And so based on what you consider, you have, everybody is carrying a bias in them. Okay, please understand this. Everybody is carrying a bias. What is that bias? What is true or false? What is right or wrong? What is good or bad? Like, for example, we conduct a class on Bhagavad Gita. Some people will come, okay, because they have an inherent understanding, or you can call it bias, that there is truth in Bhagavad Gita. But certain other people say, what is the use? Bhagavad Gita and all is just useless, because they have a bias. So you are going to the class on Bhagavad Gita, which involves sense perception, because you will hear things. Then you will involve the mind, which is your understanding what the thing is, what is being spoken, is driven by the bias, isn't it?
that's true. That's true.
Right? So we have to have that understanding. So this is a cyclical process. Okay, we start with some bias, then we get some meaning, then we get some sensation, then we get some object. Then based on that, we again get more meaning, more understanding, and change our bias. That bias is not a bad thing in ultimate sense, because just because I'm biased towards the truth doesn't mean that bias. It's even for the devotees. There is a bias towards Krishna, or biased, you can say bias towards the truth. That bias is not a bad thing. It is simply an indication of the fact that it exists in us, right? So Anumana is the activity, or Anu means subordinate, or Anu can also mean a part. Mana is the mind, a part of the mind, or subordinate to the mind. Okay? So this is basically giving the world meaning. This giving the world meaning is a huge realm of, um, you know, you can call that interpretation. Sometimes you can call it giving the meaning. Even science is all about, like, everything that you're doing. Let's say Newton modeled the world in terms of calculus. That is giving the world meaning, because you're saying it is working according to calculus. Because calculus is the realm of rationality, and your observations are in a different realm, and you're combining these two realms, the sense perception realm and the thought realm, and you're saying basically this realm is causally controlled by that realm, and that is Anumana.
Just one quick question. If we say realm of reality, how would we translate that into Sanskrit? Is there any word for it? Realm of reality.
Yeah, this is called Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sthula Sharir. In Sankhya philosophy, in Sankhya Sutra, there are three bodies: Sthula Sharir, Linga Sharir, and Sukshma Sharir. So the stool body, gross body. Linga Sharir is gendered body, you can say, and Sukshma body. So gender, for example, we say male and female. It's not sthula, it's not the gross body, whatever you call, right, shape and size of the body. The gender, whether it is male gender, female gender, etc., this is based on the nature of the senses, mind, intellect, ego, and moral sense. Okay. So accordingly, the masculine senses and the feminine senses are different. Masculine mind and the feminine mind are different. Masculine intelligence different. Their egos are also identification. For example, the way most men, I'm not trying to stereotype here, but most men will identify themselves in a certain way. Women will identify. Their values are different. What they value are different. So these are realms. Okay, so when I say realm, in Sanskrit or in Sankhya Sutra, they will simply call Sharira. Okay. But that Sharira doesn't mean simply this Sharira that we call body right now. Even gross body, gendered body, subtle body is there. And within each of these bodies are many, many levels, which are also bodies. Okay. They are just layers and layers and layers and layers of bodies. In yoga philosophy, they'll describe 5 bodies: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Jnanamaya, Vijnanamaya. Okay, this is the 5 body description. In Sankhya, this is a 3 body description. They are overlapping, they attribute different things, but they can call it Maya. Maya means it's a covering, right? And Sharira. So those words are there.
Yeah, any further questions? We already
Uh, one
time is 9.
question. May I ask one question if there is time?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Suhash and I am a teacher, faculty in an institute, technical institute.
Yeah.
And nowadays, what is happening is that in government. I'm a government employee as well. So we have been asked to teach differently. Okay, the modern day pedagogy, basically through different way of teaching, like collaborative teaching, flip teaching, gamification, self learning. These are different ways of teaching that have been taught by ASAT also to the teachers. Now my question is, uh, uh, how do you think that Vedic way we should teach the students so that they can learn the, of course, the modern day science. It has got a lot of uh, problems, as you have already said, that the mass problem and all these things. So I mean, how to teach science Vedic way to the modern science in Vedic way to to today's days. I mean today's students. How will
We
you?
cannot teach like this at present.
Okay.
We cannot teach just simply call like I have tried this, and I keep trying this, try to teach people who are newcomers. You just try to teach them science. It doesn't work. You cannot teach like that. We have to teach them. First of all, we have to give them clean habits from childhood. Okay, Prabhupada illustrated this very simple in the Gurukul system. Children, 4 5 year old, they get up, take bath in the morning, 5 o'clock, go Mangalarati, sing and dance. Okay, then come back and chant some mantras. Okay, then eat lunch and then go and learn some language and things like. It's a slow process. If you say that, oh, we will teach science, let us teach Vedic science or teach in a new way, how will you teach?
Yeah,
Can't.
actually, not actually the science. I'm talking about the way of teaching. Okay. Should the technique be like yours, as you have given in your book? By starting the question and then answering and that way, or I mean, I'm talking about the pedagogic technique actually, Vedic pedagogic technique,
That
which can
depends
be
on.
useful for, yeah.
Yes, yes. So if the children are humble, they can ask a question or the teacher can also instruct. It depends on the person. There is nothing see, there is no meaning to method unless there is meaning to madness. Okay? Method is according to the madness. So everybody has got a different kind of madness. So accordingly, there is a different method. If there is one method, then why are there so many yoga systems, right?
Yes. Yes.
Ashtanga yoga system is there because somebody is comfortable renouncing the world, and they can sit either a bank of a river or in the cave of a mountain or in the forest, and they can perform great austerities. For them, this is there. They are very uncomfortable if you tell them, oh, you perform your family duties, and they say, oh, this is not working for me, I'm getting distracted by family. Okay, don't worry. Somebody will say, I cannot go there. Okay, then you perform this. Some people can say, oh, this practice and all is very difficult, but I can do philosophy. Okay, you do that. Somebody can say, all this philosophy is beyond me. Okay, fine, you do some puja and mantra chanting. So, according to the person, the method is adapted,
Okay.
right? There is no universalize. See, the thing is that the one of the things you see about the West is they try to universalize everything. Okay, one method for everybody. And the Indian schooling system is also following the same universalization schemes. Where is the individuality of the child? What is the consideration about what is the background of the child?
Yes.
There is no consideration because the education board is giving a syllabus. Okay, you just do this syllabus, and then teachers are coming and then they're trying to complete the syllabus. But in the process, they have discounted the individuality of the child, the nature of the child, and that child has, some children have some background, some children don't have background. Maybe they are not intended to be educated in this way,
Sure.
right? So a very complex process that involves the teacher to understand the child's mentality, the child's nature. That is why even Education is not universal. Chaturvarnam maya srishtam gunakaram vibhagasa. 4 varnas are there. Okay. Brahmanical education is lifelong. Okay. There is no concept of, oh, I've stopped. Pathan Pathan is an yajan. That is the activity. Pathan Pathan means I am teaching you and I am also learning myself. Lifelong. Education is lifelong. That is Brahmana. But for Kshatriya, okay, learn till 25 years. For Vaishya, okay, learn till 15, 16 years. Right? So everybody cannot be educated in the same way, the same number of things. Everything is personalized and individualized, and that is the first thing. And how to teach, if you want to, if you're talking about the highest level of education, we cannot simply give theoretical knowledge. We have to give them a lifestyle. Okay? And we have to change their way of thinking. And that way of thinking begins with changing the mood of the person, the emotional state of the person. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Thank you,
yeah,
sir.
this,
I apologize. Actually, I would request all the participants if they can send us the questions beforehand, then we can take it properly. And it's already 9:24. I don't want to stretch them.
Prabhuji, if you can allow, I just want to make a comment.
Yes.
yeah,
So it was a very nice interaction and learning for all of us. But one thing is for sure that if we teach more philosophy at the beginning, people will resolve to take simple things and start chanting Hare Krishna.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, true.
that is why I keep emphasizing you can reject philosophy, but don't reject chanting. Okay?
No, I mean the more we discuss, no, we will try to resolve that simpler thing must work out, and what has been concluded in the beginning is more warranted rather than I'm discussing all the logics and those things. So that was very nice conclusion. So with that conclusion, that was very nice, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Philosophy is there for a very small number of people. See, the problem today is this. You can say that I am going to the temple, I am going to chant. Okay? But a very, very small fraction of the population is going to do that. Right? Most of the people will say that, oh, like even forget about most of the people. If I can pretend and I can behave or I can act like an atheist in front of you and say, you are worshipping stone and metal. Right? This is the Christian argument against, Hinduism or Vedic civilization, Muslim argument, Jewish argument, Buddhist argument. Everybody is arguing like this, and even most of the even impersonalists are also arguing like this. You are simply worshipping stone and metal, right? To explain that, to answer that question requires philosophy. How God advents into stone and metal, whatever you call stone and metal. Okay, so it begins by saying stone and metal is not substance, it's form. Okay, one form has taken the form of another form. So you can say that, or you can say, I am chanting this mantra. Okay, yes, small number of people will chant. Most of the people say it's mumbo jumbo. Is it not? So philosophy is there to respond to challengers, to respond to counter arguers. But the
Yes.
problem is because most of the people doing these things are living in a certain environment where the challenge doesn't exist, therefore they do not perceive the need for it.
Yes, Prabhu, I was just getting sarcastic to the people who, I mean, so what I was making the point that if we teach philosophy in the beginning in a rigorous way, then the simpler things they will conclude. So that was my sarcastic
Yes,
comment.
yes.
That was a comment. Thank you.
Okay, I did not perceive the sarcasm. Sorry, I took it literally.
It
Thank you,
was
Prabhuji.
really wonderful to discuss with you. It is exciting. So maybe next time we can discuss further aspects. Different Vaishnava philosophies, how it differs from impersonalistic philosophy, or even different the six system, other systems, how much they're aligned with the proper Vedantic conclusion, and how much they're not. So maybe that we can
Okay.
discuss next time. Thank you so much, Mr. Dalela, for your time. Almost 2 hours you tolerated our questions and late into the night. Thank you so much. We are so grateful to
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.